of the final results of Census 96. I want to express my sincerest appreciation to the Statistics Council for its role in overseeing the process and authenticity of Census 96. In fact, what I'd like to do is ask the members of the Council to stand for all to see. Joe, please lead us. Thank you very much. Mr. President, I want us to see this group of people. They're important, they're distinguished experts in own name and right, they're representative, there are some who are not here, but all of the provinces are represented, and all of the stakeholders are represented. What the Statistics Act of 1976 requires is that they advise me of the statistical system in general and the census results in particular. You've set me a task. I'm not a statistician. I don't look at the detail of the counting. I don't oversee the process. But the Statistics Council, through a team from amongst itself, has actually done this for the country. They suggested to me that we accept the recommendation, and I actually had to interrogate them. I apologize for that, but I think there's too much at stake. And so, out of a very close interaction between ourselves, I've been placed in a position where I can accept the recommendation and in the process, again, express the appreciation of the government to the Council for its efforts. It's the first census in our history in which South Africans across the length and breadth of the country have been counted as residents of a new democracy. This census is the first one which has gone out to count on a head-by-head basis each person in this country. It does not rely on projected numbers based on an abstract model. This is a great achievement, and it's even more so considering that it's less than 5 years since we emerged from our apartheid past. The census is crucial in a number of different but interdependent ways. Firstly, the results provide a vast and detailed picture of the legacy of inequality that apartheid has left us. The census results give us a detailed statistical picture of what is happening at the local level, and as Dr. Orkin said, to within about 100 houses or so. In the village, in a deep rural area, or in the urban informal settlements. The detailed results will give government in the various national government departments, the provincial authorities and local governments, as well as the private sector, a basis upon which to accurately target their planning processes at particular issues. In so doing, we can ensure that a range of issues such as employment, of health and education provision, of social welfare, of investment in infrastructure can most directly reach and benefit those who need it most. Secondly, we now have benchmarks against which we can measure our future progress in meeting the challenges of development and in bringing about a better life for all South Africans. At some point we say, that's the legacy, we've measured it, and these are the improvements beyond that. We will be able to develop accurate indicators to measure progress in our struggle to overcome inequality and inequity. We have the information which can tell us about the numbers of people who are illiterate, malnourished, unemployed, or homeless, and we will know precisely where these people are to be found. Thirdly, we know that in the past there's been a paucity of information, of accurate statistics to quantify and locate precisely the problems we have needed to address. The census provides us with detailed information which will allow us not only to measure and index, but also for the first time to locate the needs to be addressed. We shall be able to identify more accurately where industrial development and economic activities should be encouraged and where infrastructure and other forms of investment should take place. The information presented to us here today has far-reaching implications for all spheres of our society: government planning, health and social services, business, to name but a few. We now have occupations and skills of the potential workforce, of the patterns of demand, and the income levels of communities, reflecting both their spending power and their tax base. The information makes it possible to target programs of upliftment, poverty alleviation, provisions of services, and so on. It offers good use for industrial development planning. From my particular perspective as Minister of Finance, it also assists in a particularly crucial way. The allocations to provinces, as advised by my friend Murphy Morobi of the FFC here, are derived from a formula which takes account of factors such as the size of population, age distribution, the use of social services, and the degree of ruralness. Therefore, the results presented to us here today will change the allocations to provinces even as we set them out in the medium-term expenditure framework. This census has come about as a result of us having achieved democracy in this country. The kind of information that has now become available brings government under scrutiny in a remarkable way. We should in fact be hiding this away so that nobody knows what we do. It becomes a means to monitor the quality of democracy. It forces all of us in government to be aware of the extent of our progress in transforming this society, in achieving our targets aimed at overcoming inequality and inequity can be monitored more easily. The means to monitor and check our performance can easily be developed, and that's a good thing. The census results will also directly assist us in the process of running elections from now on in this country. Every 5 years we are constitutionally bound to hold a general election. Thus, an election will be held in a few months' time. Precise information is needed regarding the location of voters and even of polling stations. The results provide an important demographic basis for the planning to be undertaken by the Independent Electoral Commission. This will especially be the case when it comes to the computerized geographic information system. The benefits of Census 96 will not be limited to South Africa. Stats South Africa, Mr. President, is leading the census planning project for all SADC countries for the year 2001. We, in turn, have had assistance from international counterparts such as Stats Sweden and the Australian Bureau of Statistics and the UNFPA in this round, and we thank them for their positive involvement. Dr. Auken has touched lightly on the huge and difficult logistical processes involving not only Stats SA staff, but 100,000 citizens, by which the census sought to reach every household. He and his colleagues in Stats SA have an exacting, stressful, and controversial job. I'd like to thank them all for the dedicated work which enabled them to deliver these results and products to us today. I think we can all be proud of them. They've given us a new set of tools with which we can plan in our ongoing quest to provide a better future for all South Africans. Census 96 has not been without its difficulties. The head-by-head count has been exceedingly complex and vastly different from the previous approach of taking a small sample and adjusting all of that to a set of lines determined by a model. The work undertaken in counting and in post-census evaluation has been examined by experts in stats from all over the world. They record a high level of satisfaction with the achievements, as does our Stats Council. Yes, there would be individuals who will insist that they and their families have been missed. They are not going to tell us that on that particular day, the 10th of October, 1996, all 5 Rottweilers were playing in the garden. But this is not a uniquely South African experience. Institutions and individuals who attach much weight to their professional integrity have approved the methods used here. It's for this reason, Mr. President, that we should appeal to all South Africans to accept the results of Census 96 as a true and correct reflection of the state of the population on the 10th of October, 1996. In fact, we should declare loudly and proudly, we have been counted in. Thank you very much. before you speak, I noticed that you were borrowing my copy. And it's appropriate that you have your own copy so that you can advise us on the decisions we must take. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Minister of Finance, Head of Statistics, South Africa, distinguished guests, what the minister has done is not going to save him from the harsh remarks I'm going to make. It is now a matter of common knowledge that I've said I'm going to step down at the end of my term, which I believe will be in May next year. I had assumed that I would disappear under a cloud of glory, but it is quite clear from everything that has happened recently and this morning that many of people I thought would appreciate what I have done as an old man now regard me as already a has-been. This report should have been given to me first and latterly to the minister. I must consider very carefully whether I should hold on until May next year. As a former boxer, I know how to hold on. But I'll have to consider very carefully whether I should do so or step down today. When we embarked 4 years ago along the path of peace, unity and freedom, our central mission as a nation was to build a better life for all South Africans. In deciding to hold a national census in 1996, 5 years earlier than might have been expected, we were acting upon our urgent need for accurate information so that our plans should be based on the real situation. A census, under any circumstances, is a mammoth undertaking. To organize a unified national census in just 1 year instead of the usual 3 years, in a country only beginning to emerge from a system that fragmented every aspect of social and political life, was a major feat in the transformation of our institutions. The census itself was one of the defining milestones in the building of our new nation. Census 96 and its army of 100,000 enumerators marked a break with our divided past. By reaching every part of the country, by using the same methods for everyone, and by ensuring that as far as possible, everyone was asked for information in their own language, we should take this opportunity to say to all those men and women who made it happen, congratulations to you all. At the end of the day, we have detailed all-inclusive information about our people, which we can use to achieve our shared goals. In breaking new ground, and so early in our transition, the census had to deal with many difficulties, and much had to be learned. It is in keeping with the spirit of openness of our democracy and the early need for information that preliminary estimates were for the first time shared with the public. But it is also in the nature of such information that it might need a revision, as indeed proved to be the case. No doubt the next census will be still more accurate, building on the gains of Census 96. But we do at last have results with which we can work, numbers that count for the nation. It will take time to absorb the full detail of this intricate picture of our complex society. But the broad outlines should act as the clarion call to rededicate ourselves in every sector of our society to the historic mission of a generation charged with transforming South African society in order to eradicate the poverty and imbalances that derive from our past. They show a society in which the lines between rich and poor were with little qualification the historical lines of a racially divided society. They show a society which had enormous basic needs to be met, whether it be in terms of access to clean water, electricity, telephones, or schooling. By measuring the extent of deprivation in October 1996, the results provide us with benchmarks against which our performance as a government and nation should be measured year by year. This picture was drawn midway through our country's first democratically elected government, when the programs of socio-economic change were only beginning to gather pace. We are right to take pride in the fact that in the 2 years since then, the character of our society has been changing day by day through an active partnership of government, communities, and the structures of civil society, including the private sector. The installation since then of some 750,000 telephones, the connection of about 1 million houses to the electricity grid, and the supply of clean water to another 1.8 million people do all improve the situation. But the scale of inherited social inequality and deprivation, confirmed by the results, makes our task one of many years, and one in which reconstruction and reconciliation, nation building and development are all of critical importance. The results remind us that we have only started along the path towards that goal, which was at the heart of our nation's founding consensus, namely to overcome together the legacy of our divided past. May the publication of the portrait of our nation strengthen our commitment to building a democracy that is worth the name. A society in which the needs of all South Africans, and especially the poor, are at the heart of the nation's efforts. There are remarks which I have been making wherever I go in the recent past. And I think it's important for me to make those remarks here. Many people have tried to assess the performance of my government. And in doing so, they have times used standards far more severe than they applied to the apartheid regime and its Bantustans, forgetting that there is a fundamental difference between the governments of this country that preceded 1994 and the present government. Not a single individual here can stand up and contest the claim that in the 346 years of white rule in this country, no government has delivered services such as we have done during the last 4 years. Unless one thinks in terms of a white minority of less than 14% of the population. But if you think about the entire country, there is no government which can compare with what we have achieved. But the fundamental difference which ought to be taken into account is that all previous governments, the incumbents, were trained in governance. They were able to go to school, universities, technicals, teacher training institutions, and acquire knowledge, skills, and expertise. So they are proficient because of that training. What is more, you were dealing with a white minority where the environment at school is exactly the same as the environment at home. Because you have parents who had a high level of academic qualification. And the child, when he or she comes back home, is able to get a professional assistance from parents in an environment of relaxation, knowing that I have got parents who love me. They ate well. They had ample accommodation where the child has a room and facilities for studying and concentration.